Iowa Republicans like Senators Joni Ernst and Chuck Grassley have been warning Iowans that President Joe Biden is not the supporter of ethanol like he said he would be. They've complained about that proposal, which would reduce the originally proposed amount of biofuels that oil producers would have to include in the nation's fuel supply. Now, the Biden administration has pushed for increased use of electric vehicles. Those obviously could rely primarily on batteries instead of things like Iowa-produced ethanol. Now, some environmentalists believe that those electric vehicles might serve as the better long-term option to minimize harm to the climate when we travel. I asked former Governor Terry Branstad about the politics both at the White House and beyond about ethanol and this carbon dioxide sequestration pipeline concept.
You got oil producing states that don't want to change at all. I think they're going to have to. You've got those, the people on the left that want to go all electric. I don't think they've thought through all the challenges and problems that are involved with that and the expense. So it's going to be interesting to see. But we're moving forward with this because we want to be ahead of the curve and we want to demonstrate that ethanol can indeed be an important part of the solution in protecting the environment and also preserving the jobs and the Iowa economy.
I'm looking at your red tie. Since you were in office, this state has become more Republican red, right?
I'm proud
in
of
my
that.
20 years here, we've had almost every combination, blue, purple, red, whatever, but it's the deepest red that the state has been in quite some time, right? What is going on, do you think, whether it's politically, culturally, socially, whatever it is, this does not feel like a purple state right now.
Well, I think what's happened is the Democrats have abandoned the working people. It used to be the base of the Democratic Party was the people that built these pipelines, the people that are working in the ethanol plants or in the fertilizer plants. And today, those people see that Republicans care about them. The Democrats, they're wedded to the establishment, to the big money people on the East Coast and the West Coast, the billionaires. So the Democrats have become the party of the billionaires and the socialists. I think the billionaires have cut a deal to protect themselves, and the rest of us are at risk. So what you see is Republicans winning. Not only did Trump carry the state of Iowa, carry 93 of the 99 counties twice, and my son was actually involved in that, as you know. But in addition to that, Republicans have won legislative seats. And we won legislative seats in many of these blue-collar union areas. Lee County, it was the 6th campaign before I finally carried Lee County by 1,000 votes. In the last election, not only did Trump carry Lee County, we elected a Republican senator, a Republican representative, and 2 supervisors. Also, Des Moines County, Clinton County, Jackson, Dubuque, many of these areas. Well, look at the recent special elections. Newton hadn't elected a Republican representative in 46 years, and the Republican won by 10 votes. Last night they had an election in Northwest Iowa, of course, very Republican, but 75% of the vote. And I think when you look at Biden's approval rating in Iowa, it's like 31% approve, according to the Iowa poll, 62% disapprove. And so it's been one disaster after another since he became president. The mismanagement of the withdrawal from Afghanistan, the inability or unwillingness to protect our southern border. Now we've got inflation at the highest rate in 40 years. I think it all indicates that Republicans have not only gained, but have done a better job of identifying with the working people of Iowa than the Democrats. And consequently, I think the 2022 election could be even better in Iowa. And of course, we've got Senator Grassley, a long-term, hardworking, popular senator, Governor Reynolds, and the Democrat that many people thought, Auditor Sands, who would run against her, he's chosen not to. I think he could see the handwriting on the wall that she would have beaten him. And consequently, I don't see that they have a really strong candidate for governor or for the Senate seat. And Republicans, you know, we have 3 incumbent Congress people, and we've got a couple very talented candidates that are looking at the Axne seat. So, you know, we're just going to continue to work hard and continue to focus on representing the hardworking people of Iowa. And I think Governor Reynolds, I like to say she's improved on everything I taught her. She's kept the state open and kept the schools and the businesses going while still working to protect the health and safety of the people of Iowa. The result is Iowa has the biggest budget surplus in history. We're in a very strong position. But she also, I just talked to her the other day, she's interested in workforce development because we've got more jobs than we have people to fill the jobs. And I think she wants to do more to reduce the tax burden to make Iowa even more competitive. So I think Republicans recognize that they need to stay in touch with the people, they need to continue to work hard, and that could be an opportunity to make Iowa even more Republican going forward.
As a reminder, Johnson County, the only Iowa county of the 99, Branstad never won when his name was on the ballot. Now, you'll remember he did not join his former boss, Donald Trump, for that rally at the Iowa State Fairgrounds in October. Branstad said that he was out of town at the time. Now, Trump, like he often does at these kind of rallies, continues to claim that he won the 2020 election despite the results of what happened. Coming up next, what Branstad says about Trump's version of what happened and what he would like Trump to instead talk about in the future.